Welcome to my sewing room. Does it make you happy to have something to look forward to? Well, that is just what Martha's sewing room is for me. I look forward to every visit with you in my sewing room. I look forward to sharing with you the best garments made by people just like you who are so creative. The projects that we have today will delight you and inspire you to get sewing. The best is yet to come. Frequently I am asked, Martha, do you have any good ideas for something to make a gift for a man? And I will tell you, today is your day, because this is a wonderful project. This is a shoe bag, and it's so easy to make. I think you can probably make one for everybody on your gift list, and it's great for traveling. I know Joe, at one time when he took his really good shoes, when we traveled and dress up clothes, he always put his good shoes in a shoe bag. First of all, you cut 2 rectangles of fabric. These we did 16.5 inches by 24.5 inches. Now then, one of these rectangles is out of a wonderful flannel, and the other one's out of whatever fashion fabric you would like. After you cut your rectangles, go ahead and put 2 buttonholes in, just about an inch apart. And be sure you cut those buttonholes at this time, because it'll be a lot harder later to cut those buttonholes open. All right, put the rectangles together, sew the top edge, the one with the buttonholes, sew the top edge together. And let me just give you a little trick on what happens next before I go to my next piece. Then you open it up, and then you turn it sideways. Okay, I've already done that to this piece. And you sew the side seams of the bag. Now I have one more little turn process to do here, which is really very easy. I turn it while it's still wrong side out. I turn it where the seam is in the middle of the bag. Then I'm going to sew the bottom of the bag, and the top of the bag I will sew just a little bit on one side, a little bit on the other side, leaving enough space to turn. Turn the bag right side out, close up the opening, and then slip the lining down into the bag. There are my little buttonholes. After you slip the lining into the bag, then you will need to sew a straight seam making a casing. And here is the finished bag, and you can put whatever kind of cord to shut it with that you would like to. But this is a great present for a man. I'm going to take this golf bag over here with me. I'm so happy to have today as my guest Steve Jeffery. Steve is president of Baby Lock USA. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. It's great to be here.
And I love your project. Go ahead and show us.
I do too. Let me show you how we did this. First, we selected 2 of our favorite fabrics, flannel and a fashion fabric. We cut 2 pieces, rectangular in shape, 16.5 by 24.5 inches long. Then we put 2 buttonholes that were about a 1/2 inch long, and we put them about 1 inch apart and centered them on the fabric. And I'll show you how to make that buttonhole.
I love it. You're going to speed it up a little bit.
Speed it up a little bit.
You can go slow or fast, can't you?
You can go slow or fast. Makes it without touching or measuring anything.
Without touching or measuring
Fully
anything.
automatic.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I remember the old days of those horrible buttonhole attachments that jerked it around. Isn't that? And it's a perfect buttonhole.
Perfect buttonhole every time. Every time. Now, next step you want to do to make sure that you cut that buttonhole so you do not damage both pieces of the fabric, which I did the first time, and we don't want to do that again. So next, after I've made my buttonholes, I take and I sew a seam across the top to put it together, top stitching that seam. Next, I'll take and sew the complete length of the bag, the side seam, all the way down to put the bag together. After that, we will take and center the fabric, center the seam in the back, and then sew the top and the bottom of the fabric, leaving a small opening in the top so that we can turn the bag so that to get the finished product. Next, we will take and sew the top, sew the closure together, turn it inside out, and we have our finished seam, stitching a seam 1 inch down from the bag to insert our cord for the drawstring.
And let me just show you this. Let's put it over there, and you have your monogram on
I have
that.
my monogram, SJJ, Stephen John Jeffery. So I know it's always my bag. And these are great for your golf shoes. They're great to travel with, to protect your shoes. And the flannel on the inside is especially important to protect the leather of your shoes when you travel.
And I especially love the monogram. That makes it so personal.
It does indeed.
And I think this will be one that I know I'm going to make for some Christmas presents.
Well, since I know how much you love this, Martha, we have a surprise for you.
Ooh.
We took and we made a special bag with a monogram on it for Martha, the M, beautiful coordinating fabrics, and a ribbon on top for you can carry your shoes in it when you travel.
Thank you so much. Well, let me see that present. Now, I love it.
Bring this over
Thank
to
you
you.
so much. I just love this, and I certainly will use it. You know, I do travel quite a
Yes.
bit. Again,
Quite
thank
a
you
bit
for
together.
that lovely present. Yes,
You're
we
quite
travel a
welcome.
lot together, don't we? Thank you so much, Steve, for
My
being
pleasure.
here. And now we have some scrapbooking ideas for you. Steve, I am so excited about your scrapbook project. Show our viewers how much fun they can have if they've gone to a trip to the zoo.
I'd be happy to. Recently, I did go to the zoo, and the St. Louis Zoo, as a matter of fact, which is one of the top-rated zoos in the country. So we've chosen for our scrapbook page here, we've chosen an animal print fabric and a scrapbooking page. And what we're going to do is we're going to fuse them together using a paperback fusible and iron them together to secure them. Next, what we'll do is take our sewing machine and stitch that together to add some embellishment to it. You can use decorative threads or different yarns to sew into the fabric to give it a different embellishment look to it, and also to help secure the fabric to the paper. Next, what we'll do is we take our picture and we'll actually sew using an applique stitch, using any decorative stitch you want actually, onto the piece of fabric. Now we'll angle it a little bit there, we'll set it up on the machine, and as I said, you can select any decorative stitch you want using the machine. And we'll sew around the fabric. Now you can sew on the paper, you can sew on the actual photograph, attaching the photograph to your scrapbook page.
Such a fun way, and don't have to fool with messy glues. And those of us
not
that
at
love
all.
to sew, this is a whole new way for us to enjoy. And by the way, I love that feather stitch. That's one of my very favorite for scrapbooking.
It is a great way to attach it. And again, you can use a different color thread, you can use variegated thread, you can use any type of thread you want to make that stitch stand out and look great on your scrapbooking page. And what else we want to show you is we took many different photographs at the zoo. You can use many different decorative stitches to attach to different pictures in any way that you like. I'll show you the back side there so you can get a good picture of how it looks on the back side and how it really embellishes the pictures and does a great finish. The last thing we did was to title the page. We actually sewn on with the built-in letters of the machine the word Safari. It's right here on there. It blends into the fabric. I'll show you that on the back as well so you can see the result. But that just kind of labels the page, sets you a reminder. You could put the St. Louis Zoo on there. You could put Bill's Day with the animals, whatever you like, just to make it a fun, finished project with scrapbooking.
And what a wonderful, just a fun project to do. And most of us have gone to theme parks, and goodness me, what do we do with that shoebox full of pictures? Well, this is the one to do with the Animal Day. And we took our family to the San Diego Zoo last year, which is another wonderful zoo. And I know now what I'm going to do with those pictures.
Yes, it's a great way to do it.
Steve, thank you so much for
You're
being
very welcome.
here.
Thank you.
And now we have a project that is so quick and so easy. This is the cutest gift you have ever seen, and it is so quick and easy. I love baby bibs. As a matter of fact, I always had bibs on my babies every time they ate or drank a bottle, and this is the most wonderful baby bib. So cute to give as a gift. As you can see, we have done the little toys, a little wooden soldier in the boat, and a little horse and a wagon and a drum. But here's how easy it is to make. See the little opening? Now, one version of this bib, like this one, has snaps. You can certainly put a snap-on bib. Then I have another version of this bib. Isn't this cute? This is kind of a birthday party bib with a little birthday cake and birthday hats and a birthday present. But this version, which has, by the way, wonderful rickrack. This one is closed with Velcro, which is very easy. The first bib was closed on the shoulder, the cut was there, and the second bib is closed in the back. Either way is great. And by the way, it's made from a purchased towel. Now, you may want to just choose any kinds of ribbons or trims, and if you don't have a machine that embroiders, then you won't do machine embroidery. Just use wonderful ribbons. See, here's a cute little school ribbon and the little blue and white check, and rickrack is always one of my favorite trims, but all you need is a purchased towel and the trims of your choice. This is so easy. You cut this circle that we have cut is about 3 3/4 inches around, so you cut the circle out near one end and then simply slice the towel. Now how easy can that be? Then you're going to zigzag the edges of the towel just for stability. We need to stabilize around the circle and around the edges. And then with the double folded bias tape that you can purchase at any store, you know, we've been using this for years, you do your double folded bias tape on each side of the back, open it up, straight stitch in the ditch, and then fold it over and stitch one more time, and then bias tape certainly goes around a curve real nicely. Then you just go around the curve and put your bias around the neckline, and then trim it any way you want to. All in the world you need is a towel, some bias tape, and any kind of trim you want to have the cutest baby bib, wonderful presents, and you might even just want to make some for your baby. And now we have some hand embroidery for you. I am so pleased to have as my guest today Wendy Schoen. Wendy is president of Wendy Schoen Design. She is a frequent designer for So Beautiful magazine. She has studied embroidery at the Royal School of Needlework in London and in Madeira, Portugal, and I might add, has taught embroidery all over the world. Wendy has designed and published 30 patterns and has authored 4 books. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Martha. Today I'd like to talk to you about the little strawberry design that's on this dress that I brought with me today. As you can see, it has a slant satin stitch upper end in the green of the leaf portion, and then in the lower end it is a cluster of many, many tiny French knots. Now, I'm going to show you today how to begin the French knot section. We're going to begin by sewing in a border or a boundary line for the sections that we're going to be stitching in the red and in the pink. We're going to only do the red today, but it's exactly the same for the pink. This strawberry is a two-tone strawberry, and you'll see how we do that. Now, when you have a cluster of French knots, it's best to put some sort of boundary. So this is what I want to do. I'm going to use a waist knot, and whenever I have a shape that I'm going to be covering entirely with a stitch, I call that the perfect place to tie on. So I'm going to take 3 or 2 back stitches, whatever one you feel comfortable with. In this case, since we're going to be covering it with knots, I think 2 will suffice. And then I'm going to start my outline or my stem stitch. Now, the stem stitch, of course, is a long stitch to begin with, and then exits halfway back. Hold on to the loop though when you're doing this so you don't pierce the thread. And this particular stitch forms a little rope-like appearance around the outer edge. These stitches are going to be stitched from stitch to stitch so that there's no space in between. Now these stitches that I'm doing are actually half stitches and halfway back. So this will continue all around. Just to speed it up a little bit, I'm going to end my stitch here. Normally I would go all the way to this point. You do not need a dividing line in between the 2 clusters of French knots. Now for French knots, these are easy to do, and a lot of people always usually have trouble with French knots because they're not tight enough, or either they wrap the needle too many times. So to begin, we're going to take the needle across the thread and make a cross. Then with the left or the non-stitching hand, we're going to take the needle around the tip and just one time and bring it in above or forward. I've seen people make French knots a lot, Martha, where they wind up with an extra twist, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. We're going to come up again for the next knot. Always leave a little space in there so you can at least place the knot down. When you make your cross, make sure you take it counterclockwise. And then what I was trying to say before is I see people bringing the needle back. And when you bring the needle back, do you see the extra twist that you make on the needle? That usually causes the knot to loosen up. So my advice is to go forward and then down. When you go down forward, you don't want to go in the same place. So so there is a separation. Now, of course, this is going to take a little bit of time, but this is the kind of work you want to do while you're watching television or listening to a book on tape or whatever. It's sort of just the type of stuff that you can let your mind wander and think about all the other beautiful embroidery designs you want to do in the future. Let me show you what the completed project looks like, stitch looks like. This is the completed strawberry. As you can see, I've taken my border stitch around here, and then I've changed colors for the second half. And the very last thing you need to do is to put in the seeds. So now I'm going to tie on with the black and come up. These are just placed randomly, and then make a French knot and put it in, and that's all there is to it. Now I know I've made my knot correctly because it is going to be a little bit difficult to pull it through. If it goes through too easily, you haven't made your knot tight enough. So now I'm going to turn it over so I can show you how to tie off, and just slide the needle under all the stitches back there, and you're done. And that's pretty much all there is to it, Martha.
Wendy, you just tie off, you just slip it through one time to tie off.
You know, if you feel like you wanted to tie it off again, just slide it in another group of stitches like this. And French knots can be made larger by adding threads, not wraps.
Adding threads, not wraps.
That's right.
Do you normally work this, like this beautiful dress, with one strand of floss?
Well, I did because I wanted a fine look to my knots. But if you wanted to get it done quicker, all you do is add another thread, and of course the work is done in half the time.
Well, as always, I love your embroidery, Wendy, and our viewers love your embroidery, and thank you so much for sharing how to make this wonderful strawberry on this elegant little girl's dress.
Thank you for having me, Martha.
And now we have some doll dressing ideas for you. I am so pleased to have as my guest today Phyllis Hoffman. Phyllis is president of Hoffman Media and publisher of Southern Lady Magazine, Just Cross Stitch Magazine, and Southern Baby Magazine. Phyllis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. I am so excited about this project that we're showing today. We call it the Bumblebee doll dress, and it is absolutely beautiful. Hold that out where we can see the gorgeous machine embroidery bumblebees in the center of these squares. Now this is a very traditional pattern that has been used to make a doll dress. This is the quilter's log cabin square. And so when we show you step by step how to do it, it's really quite simple. Well, let's get started. The first thing that we do is we cut our squares, a strip of fabric 2 inches wide, and then we mark so that we have 2-inch squares. The first step to really expedite the process is to take a 1-inch strip of fabric, sew it, and then we'll cut these into individual squares. Using fabric and lace, we can create a log cabin quite easily. After you cut the fabric, the first seam you make, and press it open, and we're always pressing toward the center, that makes it lie flat. This is what step 1 looks like. Step 2 is simply taking the same fabric, attaching an additional strip of fabric right here using a 1/4-inch seam allowance. That's very important in quilting. And then we open out and press toward the center. And that is the technique. Now, to this point, we have used fabric. The secret to log cabin is lights and darks. In this particular design, our light is actually going to be strips of lace. And so we will attach a piece of lace along this side. We're continuing around the square. We do not repeat where we have already sewn strips. We continue around. We attach this lace, and then we open it out, iron it flat again, continuing to keep the seam allowances toward the center. But the extra step we have here, once we complete this, we take a tiny zigzag and secure that lace to the fabric. The second piece of lace attaches identically the same. We come right here, lay that flat edge, stitch right here using our small allowance, seam allowance this time, and then we open, iron, and then zigzag. This completes the first round of our log cabin. The second is shown here with a beautiful aqua fabric. On the fabric side of our block, we do a strip, we iron, and we do the same thing. We come to the side here where the fabric is now completed. We complete our lace in the same steps, by simply placing, seaming, open, and ironing. This is an exciting block because as you watch it progress, you see that you have the dark, which really is fabric, and the lace side, and it forms a perfect square. And this is what our block looks like when it is complete. We have 2 blocks side by side. The important thing to remember in the lace side is always zigzag to secure that lace. Now, adjoining these 2 squares is a choice that you have to make. Our doll dress, we'll take these and show you. Our doll dress is assembled where the fabric squares butt together, and it forms a beautiful pattern there. You can attach these in many ways. Sometimes we choose to do them like this, where they continue in the same pattern. And all you do is you simply pin these together. You take your 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then when you open it up, you will see that it makes the pattern of the skirt. This is a fabulous, fun thing to use beautiful scraps from your heirloom stash, as I call it, with lace and fabrics. Ironing is important. It is essential that you iron your seams and you iron them toward the center. In doing that, it makes it stay flat and perfectly square. And if we look back at our doll, Martha, we can see that they are joined together, and then after the squares have been joined to form a band, we simply finish with a lace edge. And this is a fabulous, fabulous use of small snippets of lace and fabric that we have left, and it accents that beautiful machine embroidery center.
Just another way of quilting and machine embroidering and doll dressing all at one time.
Absolutely.
Phyllis, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now I have a really beautiful vintage baby christening coat to share with you. In Victorian and Edwardian times, along with the christening dress usually went a christening cape or christening coat. This one is an exceptional example of what a beautiful christening cape looks like. Now this one is made of English netting, one of my very favorite fabrics in the whole world, cotton netting. Notice the details of the gathering or ruching as it was called, a couple of rows of gathering or ruching around the neckline, and then there are 3 little netting ruffles that go down the cape portion of this beautiful cape, the top portion. The embroidery is absolutely spectacular. It starts all the way at the neckline, comes down with a beautiful swirl of embroidery, absolutely delicate and completely beautiful. The 3 little netting ruffles are also on the cape part. Now let me open it a little bit here and let you see that there is a lining of silk. It's a lightweight silk, almost like a China silk. Not only is there a lining, the lining is outlined in just a little baby French lace. Okay, let's look at the bottom portion of the cape. The embroidery continues all the way down, all the way from the top, goes all the way down and around the bottom of the cape. That same beautiful swirly pattern is on both of the corners of the front of the cape. Notice the lining. This mother made her lining, about 5 or 6 inches shorter than the cape. I think there's a reason for that. She wanted the embroidery to show through. I always love to show you the backs of these wonderful pieces. They're just simply spectacular. The details 100 years ago were made just as beautiful on the backs of these garments. I can just see some mother or grandmother sewing this wonderful cape, just thinking about the new baby and about the time when the baby would be christened. And the beautiful thing is she was probably thinking about future generations that would enjoy this also. For our Sewing from the Heart today, I have a wonderful letter. Hi, Martha. We have a small sewing group, 25 to 35 ladies, called the So Impressive Sewing Club. Each year, our group has a charitable sewing night in which we sew for different causes. One year we made preemie day gowns to donate to local neonatal units. The next it was bibs for the elderly at our area nursing homes. And this year we turned out over 100 head turbans to be distributed at local cancer treatment centers. This is our way of giving back with the wonderful gift God has given us. Sincerely, Nancy DeLeo and Wendy Baldwin. And these ladies belong to the So Impressive Sewing Club in Napoleonville, Louisiana. Nancy and Wendy and all of the other ladies out there that are sewing for people in need or sewing for those less fortunate, I would like to thank you. It is just an exciting thing to think how many ladies are giving of their time and energy and their sewing talents and using these wonderful sewing machines to make things of value for people other than their family members. Of course, we love to sew for our families too, but I want to thank all of you who are making a difference with your sewing machines. I especially want to thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad you came, and I would really like to invite you to come back next time.